Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Squadrons. And I understand that this is the second video that I'm working on for this title in a very short amount of time. The reasoning behind that is because initially we had the CGI trailer, which just gave us a bunch of fancy visuals and the basic notions of what the game was. But on Thursday, we also got EA Play Live, which went into a little bit more depth as to what we can expect from this title. And a bunch of news outlets also got some additional information that I would like to talk about. And at the end of the day, I'm still a massive Star Wars fan. I kind of grew up with the original trilogy. I watched it over and over again. I love the story. I love the original characters. It was a very special part of my life. I never really forgot about it. And I understand that current Star Wars has been largely disappointing, at least to me personally, when it comes to Solo, the Star Wars story, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. As far as I'm concerned, all of those movies were complete and utter trash. Rogue One, though, was pretty friggin' sweet. I loved Rogue One, but, you know, it is what it is. I just want to make sure that you guys understand I'm very biased towards Star Wars, and that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this, because this particular game focuses on the parts of Star Wars that I like the most, which is I love the movies. I like the Jedi lightsaber battles and all that. But the stuff that I really like is the space fighting, the big fleet battles with ships all over the place and shoot. Like, that's the stuff that I like. Guys, remember the friggin' trench runs on the Death Star in A New Hope? That thing has always been amazing to me. So this game looks like it's going to be focusing more on those aspects, and that's the reason why I want to talk about it. So before we go any further into the video, for anyone that hasn't really caught up on what this game is all about, Star Wars Squadrons is going to be a first-person Star Wars mission-based flight sim. Now, why do I say mission-based? Because everything that I see about this game to me screams this is going to be about missions. This is kind of to differentiate between something that could be like a more open world type game. No, it's going to be based around missions from what I can tell. It is going to have a single player campaign as well as multiplayer modes that you can go and you can engage with your friends. It's going to be 5v5 multiplayer modes. We're going to be going a little bit more in depth with those. But yeah, one of the first things that I would like to emphasize is that this is first person. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be asking, oh, is it going to support the third person mode? I don't think that is going to be the case. This is going to be more about flight sim and less about, you know, the arcadey style that you see, for instance, in the Battlefront 2 Starfighter mode. This was actually from the team that worked on Battlefront 2 Starfighter mode. After they wrapped up Battlefront 2, they were like, man, we're really into this Starfighter mode. We'd like to develop more, you know, another product kind of like in this direction of the Starfighter, but to go a little bit more in depth with its mechanics. Now, at this point in time, it seems like it's going to be just first person. Maybe before the game comes out, they change their mind and implement a third person, but ultimately they're going more the flight sim route. Now, it's not going to be full on flight sim where you have to, you know, I don't think it's going to be something on the level of like Elite Dangerous. I don't think they're going to go that far into it, because I don't think a game like that is going to generate enough mass appeal for Star Wars fans. Then again, maybe it could, because I mean, I guess the fans of the original trilogy are going to be mostly my age by now, so maybe it would. I don't know, but again, I think it's going to be much more accessible than something like Elite Dangerous, where you'll crash and burn 5 times just trying to figure out how to dock your ship with a space station. You know, I don't think they're going to go that deep. But again, they have announced that they're going to be supporting HOTAS and stuff like that on the PC side of things. Not on the consoles, they haven't mentioned anything yet. But yeah, it'll be curious to see how much of it is going to feel arcadey and how much of it is going to feel more flight sim, but right now it looks like cockpit view is going to be the default. Now, in a very surprising turn of events, because when I started noticing, okay, this is going to have multiplayer, so obviously they're going to put in a bunch of like microtransaction stuff. There's probably going to be like a bunch of DLC down the line and all of this. And as it turns out, no, it's going to have none of those things, which got me even more interested. According to everything that we know so far, they're saying there's not going to be any microtransactions, and that this game is actually not intended to be a live service, and it is going to be a $40 title. Now, as with everything, it's going to depend on the amount of content, if it is going to be able to justify that $40 price tag or not. We shall see. But anyways, in an interview to Game Informer, here's what they had to say. When asked if Star Wars Squadrons would follow in the footsteps of most multiplayer games that deliver post-launch content, Motive Studios creative director Ian Fraser shocked me in saying the team isn't eyeing that possibility at the moment. Our mindset has been very old school. Thank God for that. Fraser says, we're trying to say with this game that we have a $40 price point. We want to feel generous to players. Yeah, I'm sure you do. Everybody wants to be generous to players. And we want it to feel like a complete experience. Like, you gave us your $40. Here's a game that you will love. Thank you. That's it. This isn't something we're building around a live service strategy. It's built around a game that is complete and great in its own right. That's not to say we will never add anything. I guess we could, but it's not presented as a live service. So I think that this is a very important thing, like if they actually deliver on this, because I mean, if we look at The Fallen Order, which is another Star Wars game that we've had that was, in its essence, it was a single player game. As far as I'm aware, they didn't add anything to that game. I pretty much played the entirety of it, finished the game, liked it, and never really went back to it because it's one of those games that you kind of play once. It's a one and done. There were some reasons to replay it and whatnot, but you don't have to. But that game, in my opinion, was actually pretty well done. I liked the structure of the game. I liked the combat of the game. I liked the progression of the game. I thought it was a pretty much all-around really good game. You guys can check out the full playthrough. It's actually on this channel. I live streamed the whole thing on YouTube. So yeah, it's not like Electronic Arts doesn't have teams that can do something like this without necessarily making it a slot machine, like a lot of their, sports titles like FIFA and Madden and whatever else they're working on these days that have like the ultimate team modes and whatnot. It's not like they don't have teams that can do this kind of stuff without introducing all of that microtransactions. It's that up until at least until The Fallen Order, which is the one game that surprised a lot of people, they just chose not to do it. But anyways, let's talk a little bit more about the game. According to Ian Fraser in the interview that he gave to Greg Miller, he says that the game is going to start off simple. You fly around space, you shoot your lasers, you blast enemies out of the sky, and Bob's your uncle, right? But he says that as you continue to play, I'm assuming he means in the single player section, as you continue to play through the campaign, it starts getting a little bit more complex with mechanics like shifting powers to different systems. This is something that has been mentioned throughout a lot of its marketing material, so you can expect that to be like a big deal, being able to swap between, more power to weapons, more power to shields, more power to engines, and this is going to be something that will allow you, to outperform your opponents by like, I have a good angle on someone right now, so I'm going to focus all my power on, lasers, and I'm going to try to blast them out of the sky. Or someone's behind me, I need to move a little bit faster, you're going to be able to dodge more. Or, hey, I'm surrounded by like 2 or 3 fighters, I got to boost my shields. And on top of it, there's also a mechanic where you'll be able to switch your shields to both frontal shields and back shields, which is going to make you a little bit slower, but provide you with additional defense in the front of the ship or in the back of the ship, depending on where you're getting shot from. Which, it's a little bit more of complexity, which is very, very much welcome when it comes to just, instead of just being an arcadey with auto lock on and whatnot, it's a very welcome change of pace to just being an arcadey type of shooter. But that's not all. They're also talking about doing these drifting maneuvers, which is, for those of you that play Elite Dangerous, it's basically there's a thing that you have, which is flight assist. Now, flight assist, what it does is like whenever you're accelerating a ship through space, basically your ship is going to have momentum. So even if you shut off the engines due to the fact that there is no friction in space, basically your ship can continue on a forward trajectory forever, even if you like turn your ship around. It can still be, like going in the direction that it was going. So they're saying that this is going to be something that you're going to be able to do. Like you'll be able to boost your engines, then turn your engines off, turn the ship around and shoot backwards, shoot while you're sliding backwards, basically. And that is something, that will allow you to do some pretty cool maneuvers in space. That is something that I use in Elite Dangerous whenever I played it a whole lot. So that's going to be something really cool to check out and see how well they end up implementing that. Now, this game is going to have a single-player story, like I said. It is going to take place after Return of the Jedi, which, it's a pretty good starting point. They just destroyed the second Death Star. And your objective is going to be to wipe out the Imperial fleet, depending on which side you're talking about, because you're going to be creating two pilots, one for each of the factions. You're going to be creating a pilot for the Rebel Alliance, which is now the New Republic, and you'll also create a pilot for the Imperial Navy, and then you'll be experiencing the story from both viewpoints of those pilots. I like the fact that you get to create the pilots because, it's just a little bit more immersive when you get to create your own character as opposed to just following like a predetermined character. I guess it depends from person to person, but I want to insert myself in the Star Wars universe. That is something that I would like to do, particularly as a spaceship pilot. That is something that I'm just super excited about because of the inner Star Wars fan in me. Now, there's also going to be multiplayer modes. It's going to be 5v5, and it is going to support crossplay across all platforms and VR. So even VR is not going to get like its own mode, which is, if I remember correctly, it's been a while, but that's kind of what we had in Ace Combat 7, which for those of you that don't know, Ace Combat 7, PS4 also supported VR, but basically VR was like its own separate mode from the main campaign. In this game, that's not going to be it. It's like you're going to play the regular modes, except there's a normal mode and there's a VR mode, and there's no separation between the two beyond the fact that, for one, you need to have VR, and for the other one, you just play it on your TV. Now, the multiplayer modes that you have is there's the dogfight mode, which is essentially like a deathmatch. It's just 5v5. You shoot each other out until one team wins. Boom, done. And then there's going to be the signature mode, which they are calling fleet battles, which is going to be like a multi-stage multiplayer battle. Now, this reminded me a lot of like how some of the scenarios took place in Battlefront 2. It's been a while since I played Battlefront 2 because it's a game that didn't really stuck with me all that much, because the thing that I was mostly interested in Battlefront 2 was the Starfighter thing, and it was very much like a side thing. There was, at the time that I was playing it, there was almost like no progression whatsoever to the Starfighter thing, so I was like, whatever. Which is why this is the game that I'm more interested in, right? But basically, like in Battlefront 2, you had battles that would, you would resolve a certain stage of the battle, and then it would go on to the next stage. Like, oh, you defeated the forces here, so now you advance to this other point. It's going to be kind of like something like that. Now, what they've said in the example that they've shown is that everything starts with a big dogfight down the middle, in the middle of the battlefield. So whoever wins that dogfight advances to the next position, which then means you will be attacking the two capital ships of your enemies. And then if you defeat the two capital ships, you will eventually go to their flagship, and you'll have to disable its main systems, and they'll be able to destroy their flagship as well, which will end the fleet battle mode. That's like, that's the basics of what fleet battle is going to be like. Naturally, there's going to be a little bit of a tug of war aspect to it, which is like, okay, so what if I win the dogfight, but then I lose the assault on the capital ships? Something is going to change there. We'll see what that ends up being, but that's kind of like the gist of what that mode is going to be. Now, a cool thing about this is the fact that there's going to be AI support for these multiplayer modes, which is something that I like, because imagine, for instance, that, a lot of people get into the game, they play through the single player campaign, they play a couple of multiplayer matches, and then they feel like they're done with it. What if there's not enough of a player base to support, the multiplayer battles? What's going to happen then? Then you have AI. You can still team up with friends that are still enjoying the game, for instance, and you can fight against AI. And I know it's not optimal, and for a lot of people, it's not as fun, but I like the fact that you're still able to do it. Like when I was younger, I didn't really have like a solid internet connection, so a lot of times if I would want to play like a shooter in a multiplayer match type situation, I'd be able to go up against like AIs, like say, oh, I want to practice a little bit of Quake 3, so that when I meet up with school friends or whatever, and we happen to do like a LAN party, I'll be better at it because I've had some practice. It was nice to be able to fight against bots in those situations. Now, it's not going to be the best experience, but I just like the fact that it's still there. Now, in terms of spaceships, there's going to be 8 ships available in the game on launch. Again, there's no plans for them to do like DLC or anything at this point. They might do, they might not, we don't know. But at launch, it is going to have 8 ships. That's going to be 4 ships for each faction, and each of these ships is going to represent a class. And each of these classes is going to provide players with essentially a different playstyle. So first we have the fighters, which are basically the all-arounders. These consist of TIE fighters for the Empire side and X-Wings for the Alliance side. These are going to be ships that are going to be like the most versatile. They're going to be, like I said, they're the all-arounders. They're going to be good at just about everything, but they're not going to excel at anything in particular. Then you have the interceptors, which are essentially the speedy boys. These are going to be the fastest ships. They're going to be very good at player versus player engagement, but they're probably going to lack a little bit of firepower in terms of being able to damage capital ships and stuff like that. So these are more intended, in my interpretation, to take out other ships, to take out enemy ships. These are going to be the TIE Interceptor for the Empire and the A-Wing for the New Republic. And I'm not a big fan of the A-Wing. I'm going to be honest there. It's just never been a ship that I liked all that much. So if I ever play an Interceptor, I'd rather be on the Empire side because the TIE Interceptor looks cool as hell. Anyway, then we have the support ships, which I would call the Healy Boys. These are basically going to be ships that will provide support. They're able to supposedly stock up other ships. So I'm assuming they'll be able to give you additional missiles and stuff like that. And they'll probably be able to somehow heal your shields. The support ship for the Empire is going to be the TIE Reaper. And for the, I keep saying Rebel Alliance, it's going to be the New Republic. It's going to be the U-Wing. Now the U-Wing, for those of you who don't remember, is actually the ship from Rogue One, the ship that they go in when they go in to steal the plans of the Death Star or whatever. They go in a U-Wing. At least if I'm remembering correctly. I think it is. I'm 99% sure that that's the ship. Anyway, then there's also the bombers, which is essentially space artillery, and the name pretty much speaks for itself. These are the ships that are going to be the best equipped ones to deal damage to capital ships and probably flagships as well. And these are going to be the TIE Bomber for the Empire, and you guessed it, the Y-Wing for the New Republic. Now, all of these ships are going to be customizable, both from a cosmetic standpoint as well as from a performance standpoint. They're saying that there's over 50 components that you can use to customize these ships in terms of performance alone. There's also cosmetic ones. Now, and keep in mind, again, there's no microtransactions, so all of these cosmetics are going to be unlocked through in-game play. So all that remains to be seen is whether or not the pacing at which you're able to unlock these things, is that going to be acceptable, or are they going to try to stretch it out over a long period of time to maintain the player base active? We'll see how fair that is going to feel, but they did say we're not selling microtransactions, so I also don't think it would make a whole lot of sense to make players feel like this progression takes too long. There's just no incentive there for them. But anyway, again, over 50 components, some of which that they talked about were tractor beams, mines, and turrets. So it's not just like laser number 1, laser number 2, laser number 3. There's actually going to be stuff that changes the way that you play the game. And a little blurb that I got out of their website was, each component offers unique effects to your ships, though most have a trade-off. So, for example, one type of shielding system will provide more protection against blast or fire, but less against missiles, or vice versa. There are many more examples beyond that too. To add to this, you can make your squadron look how you want as well. Your 2 pilots, Imperial and Republic, and 8 starfighters, 4 per side, will have various cosmetic options that you can earn and unlock while playing. There are plenty of different ways to stand out. And, naturally, depending on the multiplayer situation, if you're playing with friends, you'll also be able to coordinate your loadouts so that you each have something that is going to be useful in an overall strategy. Another thing that they said is learning which ships perform best to your capabilities while also keeping squadrons balance in mind will help you excel in the cockpit. Because of the uniqueness between ships and factions, you'll have the option to have matchmaking prioritize which faction you prefer to play a part of, be it for loyalty or functionality. So this last paragraph here actually leads me to believe that the ships are going to handle significantly different. So when you're flying a TIE fighter, it is going to feel very different to flying an X-Wing. And that's a cool thing, even though it's going to be a lot harder for them to balance around in multiplayer because, players are going to figure out which one of them is the meta, and they're going to be like, okay, so for interceptors, this one's the best. For support, this one's the best. In this particular scenario, this one's the best. So it's going to be I think it's going to be harder for them to balance it out if the ships are going to have different performance stuff. Not to mention there's also the customizability with all of the different mods and stuff. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I actually like the fact that the ships are going to feel significantly different because, there's going to be more people that want to play, I want to play as the Empire because I want to shoot the rebel scum, but there's also going to be people that be like, I want to play as the Empire because that sweet friggin' TIE Interceptor, So, yeah, that's something that's cool. Now, they also said, as I mentioned previously, the whole game is going to be playable in VR, so I just wanted to point that out, that I like the fact that it's not a separate mode. right? It's not like, oh, here's the real game and then here's the VR mode. What they've said is, no. Here's the game. You can play it normal or you can play it in VR. And this is something that I've always stressed about whenever games are like, oh yeah, we did the VR thing. It's a separate thing, very hidden away. We don't talk about it all that much. Like, no, dude, if you're going to do VR, then let people play your whole game in VR. That's the way to go about it. So I like the fact that they did that. And then, as I also mentioned previously, they've confirmed HOTAS support on PC, but not on console, which was very disappointed that they did not confirm it. Now, they did say they still have more stuff to announce at a later date, and I understand people are like, dude, like, how many people actually have a HOTAS on a console? I don't care how many there are. I do. So I want the game to support my HOTAS. I mean, there's only like one HOTAS that works on PS4 that I think there's like two. There's like two HOTAS that work on PlayStation. And I own one because I play Elite Dangerous on PlayStation, so I'd very much like to see that supported because, it is what it is. Not to mention it will be a lot more immersive if you do PSVR and then you have your HOTAS. Like, that's way cooler than PSVR and a DualShock. At least that's my opinion. Another thing that I feel would have been cool for them to address that they might address at a later date or not is how's it going to work in terms of the next-gen consoles? Because, this thing's going to come out on the 2nd of October. I don't know if at that point the new console is going to be out. I doubt it. I think if the new consoles will be out late October or mid-November, that's when I would expect the new consoles to be out. So it's like you're buying this very much on the cusp of next gen. So you guys should really announce something like, oh yeah, you just get like a free upgrade or something. I don't know. But something should have been announced in regards to that. But that is everything that I have to say in regards to Star Wars Squadrons at this point. Once again, I'd like to apologize because I'm a big fan of like Star Wars stuff. So whenever something related to Star Wars that actually looks like it might be a good product because it doesn't have microtransactions and it's going to be focused around one of the aspects of Star Wars that I really enjoy, I just kind of like talking about it. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy it, hit the dislike button. Feedback is important. And let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.